Hi, I'm Lucas D'Agostino. Before I get started, I'd like to ask you something. What do you think I have in common with this man? Anybody know? Nothing? That's not it. We're both into punk rock. I like to talk about punk. It's something that's very important in my life. First, I'll talk about the history of punk. It was a music genre that started in the mid-'70s. It was a reaction to other music at the time, like the overproduced, complex progressive rock with bands like Pink Floyd. It was kind of a coming back to the roots of rock and roll. It's very simple, aggressive, simple chords. It's rebellious. It started in the mid-'70s with bands like the Ramones playing at CBGBs and other clubs. It was influenced by the Midwestern garage rock scene with bands like MC5. It quickly spread to Europe, specifically London. Bands like The Clash and the Sex Pistols were very popular. In the early 80s, punk took a turn to be more intense, even more aggressive with hardcore punk, which had a big scene in DC with bands like Minor Threat and Bad Brains, and in California, both in Los Angeles and in the Bay Area, with the Dead Kennedys, the Adolescents, Black Flag. After that scene died down in the mid-'80s, punk didn't really do a whole lot until the early '90s, when it really broke through to the mainstream with poppier acts like Green Day, The Offspring, NoFX. And I would say now punk has a lot of variety to it. There's technical punk, there's punk that's very melodic like the Lawrence Arms, there's a lot of really heavy hardcore. So right now you can hear all different kinds of punk. Some subgenres of punk, there's hardcore. Like I said, it's the more aggressive version. There's crust punk that's really dark and it's metal influence, it's slow and brooding. There's folk punk, which is my personal favorite. It's exactly what it sounds like it would be. So, pop punk, it's lighter, the lyrics aren't as serious, it's fun, it's influenced by bands like The Descendants, Blink-182, they were popular in the '90s. There's ska punk, which was the Jamaican traditional music with the horns combined with punk. That was big in the mid-'90s with bands like Less Than Jake. There's emo, which is short for emotive hardcore, which started in the late '80s in DC with bands like Rites of Spring. The term is kind of misused now, but it has been a big influence on a lot of today's music. I think there are some misconceptions with punk. People think that they're anarchists, that they believe there should be no government. While there are anarcho-punks, this isn't something that's necessarily common. Not many of them actually think that. People think they're burnouts, that they just like to do drugs and are self-destructive. Well, here's a band, Minor Threat, from the '80s. They didn't drink, they didn't smoke, they didn't do drugs, they didn't think they needed it. And a lot of punk bands are like that. It's just like any other subculture, they're all different types of people, and saying they're all burnouts is really a misconception. And perhaps the saddest one is that people think punks are hateful because they like to express themselves in a different way. They like to, they listen to intense music, aggressive music, but everyone I've ever met in bands, people that book shows, other fans, everyone's been extremely nice and welcoming, so it's really not true. Now, what's cool about punk? It's fun, right? You go to a show, you can mosh, stage dive. If you fall down, someone's going to pick you back up and you can keep going. It's great to be able to shout along lyrics that everyone knows with people that are complete strangers. You feel like everyone's friends, which means, it's easy to meet new people because you have at least one thing in common, so it's easy to make friends. You also can get cool vinyl. Here's one 7-inch that I have that I think looks really cool. It's clear. And, the most important thing is it's really a catharsis. You can go and forget about life's problems, release all your emotions, release your pent-up energy. It's really a positive outlet to express yourself and to release your energy. Now, I know what you're all thinking. You're like, okay, Lucas, this seems kind of cool, but let's be honest, it's kind of stupid, right? What did I just do? Well, I'd like to say that from punk, you can actually learn a lot of important life lessons through some of the punk ethics. There's the DIY, do-it-yourself mindset. A lot of bands like to produce their own records, sell their own merchandise, book their own shows. This is a DIY space in Fort Worth. It is completely volunteer run. The shows are cheap. They don't allow drugs or alcohol, so it's a very safe environment. Another important lesson is the individuality aspect. You can be who you are. You don't have to put on a mask. You can be yourself, and no one's going to judge you. If you dress weird, no one's going to look at you funny. If you dress normal, that's okay too. It's all about being yourself. And another thing with punk, because of its no frills, simple, straightforward nature, the lyrics are often very honest. It's about saying what's on your mind and not being afraid to express what you believe in. So honesty is another important aspect of it. There's also positivity. It's not about complaining about your problems or, feeling sorry for yourself. It's about acknowledging what's wrong and realizing that you have the power to change things and that you need to stand up for, what you need to do. And the tolerance is also big. A lot of punks are very anti-racist, anti-sexist. They believe in equality for everyone. There was the Riot Girl movement with bands like Bikini Kill. They believed in feminism. So there's all different kinds of things you can learn from punk. Just like any other form of art, it's an expression of the human spirit. So it's something I can relate to, and I'm sure it's something many of you can relate to. So next time you want to have fun, meet some new people, or maybe learn something about life, try going to a punk show sometime. Thank you.